Oh, you got my card?
No, I got your logo.
Oh, I was gonna say I got my card though too from the prison when I.
Oh, see, this a real. I got my boy to recreate it.
I see that.
That's the real one. I had.
Yeah, I got my real one too, bro. You don't want to see it. It's crazy looking.
Oh, okay. So let me go ahead and.
It looks like Charles Manson.
Let me start this thing right here. So, little music first, and then we go into it. Boom.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. God is amazing, homie. Okay. Vine said I'm Mike Vick before the case, Mike Tyson before the rape. Mine stayed at MJ 3 game tying his lace. What's a lie to the truth? A defeated foe, like 2 times 2, but with a different meaning though. Be multiplying brand new, mathematically clearing the windshield so you can clearly see through. That's Jesus at the end of that road. Greatness follow me, babe, and I'ma show you how to make. I'm a rap gorilla, smooth criminal, came here for the walking dead. Yeah, thriller. I talk it cause I'm confident. And the caveat to the equation is I'm heaven sent. Problem the menacing. I jumped in front of bullet. Couldn't let him kill my brother. Put my life on the line because I love him. You don't understand my kind. I'm a last but dying breed. My mama told me to wars my dreams. I better stampede. So
Yo. Welcome. You're now tuned in to the Progression Podcast, man. Let me get this off the screen right quick. I'm sitting here with my man, my main man. Y'all don't even know this dude here. It's hard to catch him though. I don't know.
Come on, man.
I think he's somewhere in New Zealand right now. I don't know. This is my man David Trickett, man, from C.H.A.R.M Ministries, C.H.A.R.M Prison Ministries. I want to say it right. You know what I'm saying? So, man, how's it going, man?
It's good, man. It's good. It's good to see you.
I want to thank you for I know you got a busy schedule, so even taking the time to just talk to us, man. And I just want to really get into it because I know you, but some things I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't know that you were bullied as a kid, so that kind of stuff you can tell.
Bro, I'm still getting bullied today. What are you talking about? I got friends like you, man. I'm always getting bullied.
Are you? Okay. I'm going to ask you this question, though, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
What's your childhood like, man?
You want the pretty side or the raw side?
I want the raw side, man. The raw side. This show is called the Progression Podcast, man, where we speak on liberation, education, and elevation.
Okay.
So I want to know, how it started.
Pretty normal childhood, obviously. What we like to call normal, but 4 years old, parents were divorced. Didn't know at the time what kind of impact that would have. I had a real close relationship with my dad, and all of a sudden now he was gone. And obviously working in prison ministries I do now, I know the direct result of many of these men's incarceration is either absent or abusive, or passive father. My father loved me. He didn't know the Lord. But just his absence of not being in my life and living with my mom till I was about 8 years old it was a pretty tough deal. And even after, I would say I acted out pretty bad from the time I was about 6 to 8, and I finally got my way and I got to move with my dad.
Yeah.
But the grass is always greener on the other side, but it still has to be mowed. And I got over there with my dad, and now you miss your mom, and there's that missing piece, the nurturing side. And I don't know what just happened right there.
You turned your camera off, but
anyway, I was trying to. These texts are coming in. I'm trying to get rid of them. But anyway, so love sports, played sports growing up. It was pretty normal from that aspect. But again, there was no understanding of God. There was no. I didn't grow up in church. I didn't know anything about that. And obviously, in my later childhood years, things began to spiral out of control.
Okay. So, I want to go with a little timeline. But that's the little the part when you were younger.
Yeah.
Now I got to go into some real stuff. I know you see the question.
I see the question.
So it says, what led you to prison?
The main thing, I would sum it up in one thing, but I'll give you the details. I didn't know my identity. When you don't know who you are, you don't know what to do. And I didn't know who I was. My whole identity was wrapped up in, I was a pretty good football player. I was recruited and looked at by several colleges now because of my identity, lack of character. My SAT score didn't measure out to get some of those scholarships, so I had to go to a smaller school. My plan was go to the smaller school and graduate back to Division I. And as things worked out, not knowing your identity, I got into college. The partying that I began doing in high school just escalated by the time I was in college, and I was all in. Now you throw into the mix, I was roomed in college with a guy who was a Colombian drug lord's son.
Whoa.
And they were handling the drug trade on the whole East Coast.
Okay.
So I was in hard and heavy pretty quick. So fast forward, it got a little too heavy for me. I moved out of Baltimore back to Houston to get away from it. But
Okay, I hear you. Everything you're saying is coming. I know
play
you.
Toys.
Yeah.
Your play toys, you can change. But
Right.
one thing they leave out of that is the other saying is where you are is where you are. Like no matter whether I left my playground playmates and play toys, I was still the same. I had no identity, didn't know who I was. My identity was wrapped up in, at that time, being a football player, but that was no more. So now I had to create a new identity.
Yeah.
My new identity was someone that was feared, someone that was respected, someone the girls wanted, all these things you fill in the blank. And, the end result is sin. I wanted to satisfy and gratify my flesh. And I did everything in my power to do that.
And you created this persona. So could you tell me the name of that persona?
I couldn't give you a name for it, bro. There might be some names that others could give you, but I would not want to venture down that.
The name, though. You know what I'm saying? I already know the name. I've heard.
Don't do it.
I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. So you told me don't say it. Now, now we got to get into some deeper stuff.
Okay.
You see the question. What was it like walking in prison for the first time?
Well, I tell you, it's really funny. I was, I was a slow learner. I'm the picture of the guy in the Bible where it talks about insanity. Doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result. I had 15 felony arrests, 8 of them still on my record. And because the lifestyle I was living and the money I had a good attorney. I was beating a lot of cases. Right. And with that being said, though, I was doing a 6-month stint, year and a half stint. When they finally did give me some prison time, a 5-year sentence, I had so much back time, I walked out the door. So I never really experienced prison for the first 7 felonies. But I will tell you, even in those times, because of my lack of identity, I always had something to prove. I'm an athlete, I'm a competitor. So I felt like every time I walked into a jail, I want to shine. Like we're gonna let people know that I ain't the one. And let me just tell you, that lasts for a little while, but eventually you find out there's someone,
right,
somewhere that he's the one.
Yeah, just like you.
Yeah, right. So, but again, I got a taste of the Word of God in '93. I would have said that I walked an aisle for salvation, but I never really surrendered my life to the Lordship of Christ. I was only getting the fire insurance. I wanted to go to heaven. I like to tell people I was a fool, but not a damn fool. I wanted heaven, but I didn't want the Lordship.
Right.
So when I finally did get a prison sentence, before the prison sentence, I actually surrendered my life to Christ. Now, one of the scariest things about surrendering my life to Christ was just that. Like, okay, how do you do prison time as a Christian?
Right.
Like, good. What's that look like? I mean, kindness is played for weakness. I want to go down there and show somebody I mean business.
Yeah.
But at the same time, everywhere I was looking in Scripture, the Lord was telling me, "You want to follow me? You want to really show you trust me? I want you to let me, order your steps."
Right.
So I went down to that prison and I trusted him. And so the first time I walked into a cell, I will tell you, it was funny. I walked into a cell and I was charged up by a couple of white brothers, and they called me over to the side and they said, "Hey man, you're going to need some help in here." And I said, "Well, if I was looking for help, it probably wouldn't be from you two."
Yeah.
They weighed about 150 pounds soaking wet. And I'm like, I said, I came to jail on my own. I'm going to leave alone. I'm not going to be riding with nobody, rolling with nobody. We're going to do this time, me and Jesus. And he's like, "Well, we'll see how that works for you."
Right.
Lo and behold, the next person I was approached by was a man of God that sat me down. We built a friendship, and he discipled me for the next 2 years in that prison, which then would lead me to going to another prison, in which I would be further discipled and begin to grow in the things of God, which in that prison is where I would receive my call from the Lord to do prison ministry. I'd love to say I jumped on that
Right.
excitedly, but when the Lord told me he's going back to prison, I'm like, "Wait a minute, I can't wait to get out of prison. I'm not going back."
Don't want to go back. Yeah.
Right.
That's a crazy thing. So, like for me, when I was in, I went for the first time, I went to the penitentiary. The second time I cried, right? And so my homeboy told me, say, "Man, nobody's been to the penitentiary unless you cry yet. One time, at least you got to cry one time." So it was a certain thing that happened to me that second time was when my son came to visit me. I went in when he was born. So then he was walking in the room where I was. And I was like, wow, he's walking. And I didn't see it. I wasn't the first to see that. And
Wow.
so when I got back to my cell, I just went to my bed and I cried, man. And I think a few days after is when I had my come to Jesus moment.
Yeah.
And so that's what I got to ask you. Was there a certain thing,
So
moment that changed your life? It wasn't.
yeah, let me speak on that, because that was pretty. So again, as I mentioned, in '93, I had a walk the aisle kind of encounter and heard another man give his testimony, and his story was worse than mine. And I'm like, "Wait a minute, I'm pretty sure they don't let dudes like you in prison. I mean, they let you in prison, they don't let you in heaven, because they ain't gonna let me in heaven with all I've done." But his story was worse, and that's when he started sharing about the grace of God, and it isn't by works, it's by faith. And I'm like, okay, well, I'd love some of that. If it's not by my works, it's by his. Let me get some of that. And again, I cling to that fire insurance, but it wasn't until '98, and there was a series of events that happened prior to my last arrest. But I remember that night in the cell, I hit my knees and I said, "God, if you're real, I'm done. I'm done living this way. I've seen some true Christians that have the peace of God, that have the joy of Christ. If that's a real thing, I want some of that." And I'm telling you, there wasn't an audible voice from heaven, but there truly was it was definitely the Holy Spirit that was ministering to me in that moment. I felt a sense of peace, a sense of comfort. I felt forgiven, which, like, again, it wasn't all like, "You're forgiven," but there was this peace that came over me, and my tears of pain and wreckage and shame and all the things that I'd caused my dad and family, they didn't deserve any of the pain that I caused them. That's the thing about prison. Prison, you're not the only one doing time. Your whole family's doing it with you.
Yeah.
And I started to realize, man, this is not right. Like, this is not right. But I can't change on my own, Lord. If you're real, I need to meet you. And I would say that night the Lord met me right there. And it's funny, I opened the Bible the next morning. I opened the Bible, and the first verse it opened to, I just parted the Bible down the middle. And it turned to Psalm 30:5, and it said, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." And I tell you, it was that joy and that peace in the midst of looking at a 50-year prison sentence that you can't explain that. You can't explain why you got peace when your circumstances are dictating a long, long, long prison sentence and everything else. And then I think what put the nail in the coffin, when I finally did go to court, you mentioned your son.
Right.
My dad flew down to Houston from Baltimore to be at my trial, and which it wasn't a trial. We worked out a plea deal, which they were trying to give me 20 years, which was great. That came down from 35, and ultimately we worked a different deal to where I wouldn't get. They were going to give me 20 and drop a case, but they decided to give me 2 10-year sentences run concurrent. So to me, that was a 10-year sentence, and that was grace. I was glad to sign.
From
But
30.
I remember going out, from 35 to 10, I'm doing good. So I go out in the courtroom, and the judge reads the crime and the time and all the other stuff. And from behind me, as they're reading my sentence, that you'll be, sentenced to the Texas Department of Corrections for 10 years, I hear my dad behind me, 2 rows back, and he's just kind of weeping. And I was like, man, like I'd see my dad cry two other times at my great grandmother's funeral and when I left for college. So there wasn't a doubt that he loved me, but this broke him. And really what sat in with me is not so much my dad weeping over my life and the decisions I made and the culmination of those decisions and where I was going. I started to think about it from a heavenly perspective. Like, how sad is God who spared his own son? And here I am just sticking him again and again with my life.
Right.
And I just can imagine how he was broken over my life and wanted to see it change. So it really kind of was the nail in the coffin moving forward.
Yeah, that's deep because it's crazy because I remember that part, but I wasn't saved then. But like I say, when I had this dream and I did come to Jesus Christ, I came out of fear. I was like, God came to me in a dream. He never came to me audible. He never said, go walk 3 paces. None of that.
I'm surprised though he didn't come that way to you. Like you have such a close walk and talk. I'm surprised you didn't get that. Hey, double O.
Call me Jesus Jr., you know what I'm saying? So, no, but for real, it's like when I had that dream, I came to Jesus out of fear. But then when I got out, because I made a covenant with God and I said, man, hey, if I can make it out of here, Jesus Christ, I'm going to serve you. I'm going to take my family to church. I'm going to do all I have to do. I'm going to serve you. And I tried, now, not to say that I'm perfect, but I tried my best to honor my contract. Let me say it like that, to honor the contract. So when I got out, I got into biblical school. I did a few things and man, I started studying. I had that hunger for more. And then I had to go back to Jesus Christ. I got to give my life again because now I'm giving it out of love. You know what I'm saying? It's not out of fear. I'm learning how much he loved me. And my spiritual father, he's one of those biblical scholars, And so he tells me, he says, you can learn that this verse lines up with this verse and all that kind of stuff all you want to. But you got to understand that if you don't know the ABCs of this thing, if you don't have love for your fellow man, all that stuff you learn doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And so that really helped me, So to get, to keep it going, why did you start C.H.A.R.M Ministries?
Well, I mean, again, I said a minute ago that when I first kind of started seeing vision from the Lord to go back to prison, when I got out, come back in, I was like, whoa. And how that started was, a lot of that, there was a lot of ministry happening on the inside. I'm not a brother that sees color. A lot of my friends in prison were black, and it didn't matter to me. And I didn't choose it because that's their color. It just so happened to be that way. But I didn't see things that way. I played a lot of sports in prison. A lot of the ministry that I did was just doing life with people. It wasn't about beating them over the head with the Bible. It was about building a relationship and then earning the respect and trust to share what I'd learned in the Word. And, and God began to show me that's what he wanted me to do. Yeah, I said, okay, Lord, I'll do that out there. There's places out there that need it too. And but God, he is, he has a funny sense of humor. He just tell him what you want to do, and he'll laugh. But anyway, he just began to put a burden in my heart. Begin to really unveil my eyes. Again, I didn't have the prejudice, but what I did have was I'll just be honest. I didn't like dudes in prison. There's this constant demand for respect. And I'm like, how is another man going to expect my respect, but he don't even respect himself? Like, you can't get my respect, right? So, but as I grew in my faith, I started to understand that wanting of respect came from a place of brokenness and a need that only God could meet, right? But he was wanting that met from man, right?
Right.
And as God began to take the scales off my eyes and begin to see men in prison the way he saw them. And I say this a lot. This is as a bunch of hurting little boys. I don't care if they're 18 or 80. Without Christ, they're hurting little boys. They may not know their condition because we're all hurting little boys in need of a dad, right? A real dad. And the real dad is Christ himself, man. It's God the Father. It's the one that extends mercy, but he also extends truth, and he gives it in equal proportions, right? We all need that father in our life. And even though, like I mentioned, I had a good dad, I didn't have a biblical dad. So my dad didn't raise me in the things of God. Even though there was a lot of love in my home, there wasn't any physical abuse. There wasn't a raising up in the things of God. So I didn't have the truth. I had a lot of grace, but not a lot of truth. And either one of those will kill a man. So, I began to learn from the Lord, that's what he wanted from me. He wanted me to start a ministry that comes back in and meets people where they are. Obviously, people that don't know that are watching, our ministry revolves around sports and about concerts and talent shows and whatever it takes to get on the inside and build a relationship with the men in there. And then from that place, obviously share the gospel. The only thing is truly going to set them free.
Man, that's what's up, man. Do you know this person?
Oh, come on, man. That's the young Dave. Where'd you get that picture? That must have been the deep archives.
Hey, I think I was telling you was like, I don't like the fruit cups. And I was trying to explain to you about, man, just eat it, man. or I was talking about that car seat. That car seat. We was talking about that car seat. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I know you remember that.
Oh, man. We've had some good old times, bro. I'll tell you that. Matter of fact, it's funny.
Go ahead.
I was talking about you today real quick, and I'll share this real quick. If you can see real quick, my boy over here.
Yeah, what's up? What's up?
He can't hear you because I've got my earpiece in. But that's Trey Jenkins, man. He's new to the ministry here. Comes from a great family. His dad was a pastor in the Woodlands, and now they live in Palestine. But the young brother, kind of because of his not really knowing his true identity, even though he lived in a good home, started making bad choices, and he ended up here. We were talking about some of his choices. He still listens to some bad music, as far as I'm concerned. He said he loves that rap music, and I'm like, man, it's okay to love rap. I like rap too. He goes, oh, come on, man, you don't like rap. I said, yeah, I do like rap if it's got the right words, because to me, it's all about the music. I mean, it's all about the words, not the music. The music's good. It accents it, and it brings it out. But the truth is what lyrics are you spitting? And that's why, you and I met, and I had immediate fell in love with you and what the message you were communicating, because I felt like your pulpit is your music. I mean, you get to preach your life to people, and they get to see it. So I was sharing that with this young brother, and he was like, man, this stuff goes hard.
Oh yeah, you got to give them something. Like my children, I have to give them some rap that sounds good, right? So they say, some rap that sounds good. I say, oh, I got somebody for you. So I give them hard ones, some hard dudes. And they say, oh man, that's pretty hard, Cray and all those guys and stuff like that. And I, eventually give them me, because I got
you gotta save that one for last. The best is for last.
Yeah, that's right. Even when I eat food, I wait for the best part that's the best, and I eat the best for last. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Man, I'm honored, man, to have you here, man, and taking time out your day to come talk to me. And I want to say what's up to Kay. If it's not for Kay, I know you.
I've probably been out there a long time ago. I heard your wife was with Kay. They were at the women's prison the other day.
Now I gotta ask you a question. How does it feel? Because it's a lot of relationships like this, married relationships, where the husband is shorter than the wife. So
none of that matters. Once you're sitting down. So, and I'll leave it at sitting down.
And you know what's crazy?
We won't go to laying down.
Yeah, we the same height right now. on the screen.
Yeah, that's right. And when we're on the phone, we're the same height. You know, we're at the table, we're the same height. Just when we stand up, when she got those heels on, we're out.
Yeah,
And it's just like it's an honor to look up to my wife.
yeah.
How wonderful she is.
Man, that's cool, man. And your kids, man. So one of your kids is in college now?
I got a friend. I mean, I got a sophomore, which I found out yesterday is basically going to skip her junior year because of how many credits she has. Which I don't know how she's going to do college in 3 years. It took me 20 to do college. And then I got a son that's a sophomore in high school at Houston Christian, trying to do his thing on the football field. So
that's cool. So let me say something. This guy that you're looking at right here, you know, we go into the prison. I go into the prison with him and we minister. I mean, it's a great thing. I'm talking about, man, if you could see it. I got so many people that see pictures of it and they say, oh, man, take me. Because I want to see it too. So it's like, it's amazing because we go in, you play basketball, baseball, volleyball with the ex-felons. I call them ex-felons, right? And so they call them inmates, but I call them ex-felons because they can't really do nothing in there. So
you'd be surprised.
Yeah, but like you were saying about those guys, well, how the respect stuff go, like the testosterone level is so high in prison. Everybody want to be hard, want to prove themselves, right? So it seems like when we go in, it like gives them a chance to be vulnerable, gives them a chance to just, you know, leave that place for a while, right?
Yeah.
And
it is a beautiful picture of the testosterone is still there because you're still competing in a sport, but you can tell because, and I believe that's because of guys like yourself and the other volunteers are so seasoned and they know how to go in and compete, but still share the love of Christ, even in athletic competition.
Right.
And they feel love, they sense love, and they respond to love.
And it's a great sports ministry, man. I've been a part of different ministries going into prisons. Like I used to go into San Jacinto, used to go into Baker Street. Now all I do is go in with C.H.A.R.M, man. I done got hooked now, you know what I'm saying? Because I love the way you do it, you know.
We'll see you Saturday, I think.
Yeah. I'm gonna be there this weekend, man. I'm gonna be there. I took off work. I said, man, they say we gotta work Saturday. I said, no, not me. I said, I'm going to
I got better place to be, prison.
Yeah, I'm going to prison. They say, oh, you got like a weekend thing you do? Yeah, you go to prison? Said,
it's a weekend thing.
Yeah, it's a weekend thing. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Weekend thing.
Like I'm sentenced or something. So, man, it was great talking to you, man. And
truly a privilege, truly an honor, man.
Man, C.H.A.R.M Ministries. And I have some more things that I've been, doing. And I do these things like, I'm just starting this podcast, right? So, when I've listened to 1 million podcasts over the years. And so they have these sponsors. They say, we want to thank this person and this person for this. And I'll be saying, I want to thank the people at Josiah's House Ministries, the people at C.H.A.R.M Ministries. I want to thank the people at Eyes on Me Inc. And those are my sponsors, And so you're gonna see it, once it comes out and stuff. And everything's gonna be cool, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. And
I appreciate you, man. Appreciate your love for the Lord and all that you're doing to take those streets back, man, for real.
And I'll see you Saturday, my man.
All right, brother. God bless.
Love.
Thanks again.